Aloha and thank you for joining us here on This Is Now and happy first day of August. Ahead of the new school year, state leaders are reminding drivers to be safe on Hawaii's roadways.
Governor Josh Green signed a proclamation declaring August Pedestrian Safety Month. Here's some of what was said at a press conference earlier this morning.
Right now, of the 59 fatalities that we have this year, and this 59 are 10 more than we had last year. Of the 59 fatalities, 20 were pedestrians. 20 pedestrian lives were lost. In that number, 8 of the drivers were driving recklessly, either drunk with drugs,
suffered a terrible accident or tragedy because they were hit by a car or a motorcycle, when it could have been avoided.
Now, with the signing of this proclamation marking this Pedestrian Safety Month, there's also a calendar of events as well as other pedestrian initiatives that are being announced. We'll have more on this story on air and online. Now to an update overnight. Hawaiian electric officials said they were able to avoid rolling outages because crews were able to ramp up additional power resources at Kahe Power Plant. Now, this all stems from a ruptured underground pipe that caused the Kalailoa power plant to go offline yesterday. It's Oahu's largest independently owned power plant, and repairs could take days. And that's why HECO officials are still asking their customers to conserve electricity and prepare for possible outages. This also led the Board of Water Supply to issue a water conservation request, which would lessen their pumping demand and ease the electric grid. If outages are needed until repairs are completed, they'd last for about 30 minutes at a time and will rotate through different parts of Oahu. It's also anticipated that downtown Honolulu, Chinatown, and Hawaii Kai wouldn't be impacted because of the recent outages there. Now to an update on a brush fire in North Kihei. We're told it is now 80% contained. It started around 4 yesterday afternoon and has burned about 35 acres. Crews worked through the night looking to put out any hotspots and maintain containment lines. MFD does warn of a possible increase in smoke as the winds pick up this afternoon. All lanes of Pi'ilani Highway are open. No injuries or damaged structures have been reported. The cause remains under investigation. Over on Kauai, 5 people were displaced when their house caught fire around 4:15 Tuesday afternoon. This happened on Kahuna Road in Kapa'a. The Kauai Fire Department says there were no injuries reported. The fire caused about $750,000 in damage. No word on the cause. In national news, a flag will be raised at the White House to celebrate the release of several Americans, including Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich and Marine veteran Paul Whelan. They were freed as a part of a historic multi-nation prisoner swap with Russia. Natalie Brand has the details from Washington.
Their brutal ordeal is over, and they're free.
As their family members looked on, President Biden announced 3 U.S. citizens and 1 U.S. resident who had been wrongfully detained in Russia are finally on their way home.
This is an incredible relief for all the family members gathered here.
As part of the multi-nation prisoner swap, Russia freed Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich, Marine veteran Paul Whelan, Russian-American journalist Alsu Kurmashiva, and U.S. permanent resident and Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Vladimir Kara-Murza.
All 4 have been imprisoned unjustly in Russia.
The Kremlin took Gershkovich into custody while he was on assignment in March 2023. Paul Whelan was arrested in 2018 when he was in Moscow to attend a friend's wedding. Whelan was the longest detained American held in Russia. He was left out of previous prisoner swaps, including the one involving WNBA star Brittany Griner. Securing his release and others has been a priority for the Biden administration.
The release of those who are unjustly detained, I think, is a big win for the Biden administration, for the American people, and for the rule of law.
While the release is cause for celebration, experts on Russia caution the swap could also come at a cost.
I think that Russia, in the sense, wanted to make a deal. This will be a propaganda coup for them because they have gotten some of their prisoners in the West to the Russian Federation.
Some foreign policy experts say deals like these give Russian President Vladimir Putin incentive to take more Americans as bargaining chips. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
Former President Trump is once again facing harsh criticism and stirring up controversy following a heated discussion at a convention for black journalists. Bradley Blackburn has more on what he said.
Former President Donald Trump stoked controversy in an interview with black journalists Wednesday when he was asked whether Vice President Kamala Harris was a DEI or diversity, equity, and inclusion hire.
You believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
She was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black.
Trump doubled down Thursday, posting a picture of Harris with her Indian-born mother. While Harris's mother was Indian, her father was Jamaican, and she attended Howard University, a historically black college.
Kamala Harris.
She dismissed the comments during a rally with a black sorority in Houston Wednesday night.
It was the same old show. The divisiveness and the disrespect.
Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, who is on Harris's running mate shortlist, said that Trump is running scared.
I think those are the comments of a desperate, scared old man who is, over the last week especially, has been, having his butt kicked by an experienced prosecutor. And I think he's worried.
At a rally in Kelly's home state, Trump's running mate defended the former president while taking a shot at Harris.
Kamala Harris is a phony who caters to whatever audience is in front of her.
Senator J.D. Vance is working to shift the focus back to differences over immigration policy with a tour of the southern border Thursday. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
Newly released audio and video show less than 2 years before the shooting death of Sonia Massey, Deputy Sean Grayson received intense scrutiny for his actions as a deputy at another sheriff's department. Bennett Haberl has more.
Sean Grayson now faces murder charges for the shooting death of Sonia Massey. While her death is the latest incident in his law enforcement career to come under scrutiny, it wasn't the first.
100, she just took off on me.
Newly released dash cam video shows this 2022 pursuit in Lincoln, Illinois. Then Logan County Sheriff's Deputy Sean Grayson is behind the wheel, chasing what he reports to be a woman in a truck he found to be suspicious.
For traffic, go ahead and just terminate anyway.
When his supervising officer tells him to end the pursuit, Grayson turns off his lights and sirens. But he does not stop.
If she doesn't stop when I get behind her, I'm going to go ahead and terminate.
His pursuit ends abruptly when he strikes a deer. The police report notes his speed at one point reached 110 miles per hour. In audio files obtained by NBC5 Investigates through a Freedom of Information Act request, the chief deputy in Logan County criticizes Grayson, pointing out inaccuracies in his reports, and warns him that other officers have been criminally charged for submitting false or inaccurate reports.
Sean, when I give you a direct order to check your reports, and I explain to you how easy it is to become an empty holster, if I allowed this report to go over, and you pushed wanting to get a warrant, and you get the warrant, and we had this discussion before, did we not?
Yes.
Just me asking you those questions, you got a report writing violation for policy. You got an accuracy violation for policy. You got a standard of conduct violation for policy, and we're 48 seconds into this.
During the interview, Chief Deputy Nate Miller calls out Grayson for a variety of policy violations and recommends he get more training, including taking high-stress decision-making classes.
7 months on, how are you still employed by us?
I don't know.
During that same interview, Grayson admits his report about the suspicious woman was wrong, that he was on a different street than what was noted in his report.
If we can't trust what you say and what you see, we can't have you in our uniform.
Before that internal investigation is completed, Grayson resigns in April of 2023 and takes a job with the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office. Before being terminated for Massey's killing, it would be the 6th police department he worked for in the past 4 years. We found more records that raise questions about his hirings. In his job application to Logan County, Grayson admits to pleading guilty to 2 DUI arrests. Months after that first arrest in 2015, he was discharged from the Army. Sangamon County says Grayson's background was checked, but they were not provided with information from the Logan County Sheriff's Office or any of his other former employers. We asked Grayson's attorney about all of this. He declined to comment. Bennett Haberle, NBC5 investigates.
We've learned a Hawaii man could be facing fines and even jail time for allegedly running over protected birds in Washington state. Washington's Department of Fish and Wildlife Police released this photo of the man who's accused of deliberately driving a rented Jeep into about 24 seagulls on Clipson Beach. Witnesses reportedly said he also nearly hit 2 people walking their dogs. Washington state has not released the man's name, but confirmed that authorities are considering numerous felony charges.
As an indigenous person of Hawaii, I know for a fact that his actions do not reflect our values.
It's not a representation of where our community's at.
The charges the man could face include animal cruelty and killing or injuring protected wildlife. Is Hawaii ready for offshore wind turbines? As several companies eye the waters off the Kaiwi Channel, a federal agency is looking for feedback. The structures would be fixed to the ocean floor and generate more power than a wind farm on land. But as Ben Gutierrez reports, it's a tough sell in East Oahu.
The state has a goal of generating 100% renewable energy by the year 2045. Just the concept of generating some of that energy with offshore windmills in the ocean behind me is not going over well. It's so early in the planning process, no one can say how many wind turbines would be set up or where in the Kaiwi Channel. But if it does happen, it might look something like this.
So it's our understanding that they would like to keep offshore wind as a potential option to help them meet their goals. And to keep it as an option, we have to, investigate it and see if it's a good idea.
Jennifer Miller is one of 2 officials from the Federal Bureau of Ocean Energy Management who met with the public in Waimanalo to explain how they oversee offshore renewable energy developments.
Just want to be clear, there's no project being proposed, right? There's no project under review. And this is just us trying to reach out to the community.
No projects yet, but some companies are interested in tapping the power of the trade winds between Oahu and Molokai. Ōkahi Energy is one of them, saying it has been meeting with community members and others to get feedback. Tonight, the feedback was loud and clear.
I don't want nothing going on in the ocean where I live. I may not be alive to see the repercussions that happen, but my opponents can see.
Who doesn't want to happen? But raise your hands. Now, if you guys need a visualization, this is only a small part of this community.
But it's very clear tonight, people are passionate about how they feel about our ocean waters and the importance of it culturally, for the recreational uses, all of this.
Some of that opposition stems from other wind farm projects that have been built on land, including the wind turbines on Oahu's North Shore.
Kahuku Wind Farm was a disaster, should never have been done the way it was done. Second, the floating platforms that they're talking about are extremely experimental, and the water is very deep. Lifeland does not believe anything could come until 2040 at the earliest, and there's likely to be a lot of opposition.
At this point, it's too early to say, definitively what is a thumbs up or thumbs down. That's why we're here.
In Waimanalo, Ben Gutierrez, Hawaii News Now.
Heads up if you're picking someone up from Honolulu's airport. A portion of the road in front of Terminal 2 is closed after a hole was found during repaving work. This is between baggage claims 19 and 22. Traffic will be routed away from the curbside pickup area. Arriving passengers can be picked up between baggage claims 26 and 31 and at the Diamond Head Group Tour area.
Let's send you live outside now. This is Chicago. It is 86 degrees there just after 5 o'clock. A beautiful day there and a beautiful first day of August here in Hawaii. Stay with us. After this short break, we'll have more news and weather, including a wrap-up of headlines from the Olympics.
How's it on this Thursday? It's the first day of August and heading into the third month of hurricane season. Still very quiet here in the Central Pacific. However, in the East Pacific, we're tracking a new tropical storm. This is Tropical Storm Carlotta. It's expected to become a hurricane later today, although the long-range forecast says as it approaches Hawaii, it's going to start to fall apart. So it does not pose a severe weather threat, at least not yet. So we'll keep an eye on it, though. And you can see this morning, we do have a few minor splashes. It's mostly dry out there, although we have a few windward and mocha showers. And those winds will run slower starting today through tomorrow. That means it's going to feel a little bit more humid, a little bit more sticky. Otherwise, it's going to be a very beautiful day with lots of afternoon sunshine, high temperatures slightly warmer. And again, with those light winds, we could see some clouds building into the afternoon, maybe some early evening spotty showers. Widespread rain not expected anytime soon. And the surf is looking up. We've got a moderate swell coming in to south and west shores by this afternoon. It's looking pretty good out there with those light trade winds too. And the east shores are dropping down to 1 to 3. So the light winds will hang around today and tomorrow. Maybe a few spotty afternoon showers are expected, but really not a whole lot of rain expected. And then on Saturday, those winds start to pick up again, humidity levels start to rise, and the breezy winds are expected to last at least until the middle of next week.
Crews in the U.S. are battling almost 100 large active wildfires. The U.S. is at preparedness level 5, the highest that exists. And as Amy Kiley reports, some blazes are turning deadly.
Harrowing evacuations are underway for humans and animals as almost 100 large active wildfires rage across the country.
We are at planning level 5. That's our highest level of fire response.
Colorado officials report at least one death. It's linked to the Stone Canyon fire.
We do have a lot of law enforcement resources staged here and also on standby that if we do need to do additional evacuations, we can ramp up quickly and get people out of harm's way.
The state's also battling the quarry fire. It's spreading rapidly.
We have a rattlesnake problem to deal with, so we have a lot of things to be concerned about for our firefighters today.
And Colorado faces the Alexander Mountain fire.
We have evacuated about 4,000 people on a mandatory evacuation and another 800 involuntary evacuations.
In California, the Park Fire remains the biggest challenge. Its burn mark now spans almost 400,000 acres. That's bigger than the city of Los Angeles. Rescuers are saving people and pets from harm. These dogs are repaying the favor, offering therapy to those who have lost everything.
Ordering people out of their homes is always a tough thing to do. We recognize that the anxiety and the trauma that visits upon people.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
On the next Investigate TV Plus, there's a shortage of Black doctors across the United States.
In the 2020s, to be a first is very sobering.
We examine diversity in the doctor's office and the efforts to recruit more providers who look like their patients.
And joining us for today's look at Olympic headlines is once again our Kyle Chanan in the H&N Digital Center. Kyle, what are things looking like in Paris?
Yeah, so actually we're going to start things off in French Polynesia over in Tahiti. Surfing back on today, round 3 for the women's side, and Hawaii's Carissa Moore just advanced into the quarterfinals. She took on Sarah Baum from South Africa. She wins with a overall score of 8.16, moves directly into the quarterfinals, which will also run today. She's set to surf at about 2:48 p.m. Hawaii time. She's set to go against Joanne Defay of France, the home country. So it's going to be exciting. They're waiting for the waves to get to a point where they could compete. So they've been off for the last 2 days. She comes back, advances, hopefully going for that gold very soon, Dylan. So it's going to be exciting. We're going to have to wait and see. There's also a couple other local girls or girls with Hawaii ties in the surfing competition with Tatiana Weston Webb and Luana Silva from Team Brazil and Team Costa Rica, who has Brissa Hennessy. So surfing, so exciting. Next up, we have to get into the pool over in France. Katie Ledecky, she just had another milestone moment. She was part of the 4x200 meter relay, and she and her team just took home the silver medal in that event, which also makes her the most decorated American woman athlete ever when it comes to medals. So her milestone career continues to elevate, and I think she has a couple more events to go. So that medal count is going to keep rising, Dylan.
Yeah, well, we got to keep a close eye on that. Anything else out of Paris?
Let's go over the overall medal count. Speaking of medals, we have China in first place now. They lead in the gold. They have 11 total golds. Right behind them is the U.S., who have caught up to about 9 gold. In total, though, the United States has the most medals. Rounding out the top 5 of that is France with 8 golds, and Australia and Japan also have 8. So kind of a tie in that bottom half of the top 5. But it's going to keep getting exciting. A couple more events to go. So we got basketball, volleyball, all these other swimming events. I can't wait. It's super fun.
Always so exciting. Our Kyle Chinen joining us in the H&N Digital Center for a look at our Olympic headlines. Thanks, Kyle.
A team of archaeologists is digging up relics from the past at a home in Annapolis, Maryland, dating back 250 years. What they're finding is shining light on what life was like back then. Caroline Forbach has the story.
Weeks of digging, scraping, sifting, and carefully logging every item they find along the way.
To make sure that no archaeological information is lost.
Project archaeologist Robert Warner says it's a painstaking process.
We dig a little bit, and then we have to record. We have to take measurements, pick up pencils, measure things, draw things, and then we dig a little bit more.
But fascinating nonetheless.
30 or 40 examples of printing type now from an early printing press. Something that we did not expect at all to find here.
The Hammond Harwood House on Maryland Avenue was built in 1774, commissioned by wealthy planter and politician Matthias Hammond. It was purchased in the early 1800s by another wealthy Annapolis family whose descendants would live there for the next 100 years. It's now a museum, and Barbara Goyette is the executive director. She says because it's a historic site, an archaeological dig had to be done before the museum could start a project to improve drainage.
Are there pipes that are down there? Are there posts that are down there? And while you're doing that, then you sift, and you can see them sifting through a 4mm mesh.
Unearthing things like sewing supplies, the head of a porcelain doll, and artifacts from someone's trip to the dentist 200 years ago.
A bone-handled toothbrush and a human molar with a cavity.
Even the sidewalk they probably took to get there.
Which probably dates to about the 1820s, and it is oyster shell embedded in sand.
Some of the artifacts will go on display in the museum. The dig will continue for at least another month, and Robert and his team are looking forward to what they might uncover.
The process where you pull something out of the ground that nobody has seen for 200 years, it just never gets old for me, and telling a story about it.
And speaking of cool discoveries, there may be a layer of diamonds up to 11 miles thick under the surface of Mercury. So Mercury was born roughly 4.5 billion years ago. It's the solar system's smallest planet and nearest to the sun. And the scientists say they recreated those conditions when Mercury was born using a high-tech machine called an anvil press used to research, and it used to make synthetic diamonds. And the test, when they did it, they included graphite, and of course, it resulted in diamond crystals.
Cool.
I know. 11 miles of diamonds.
Wow. Luxurious. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Aloha.